What up, everybody? Blake the Scholar of Magic, and I just wanted to kind of maybe look at a newer card in a deck that I think has done very well. This particular, I guess, last couple weeks, I've just been getting back into Standard, and I started in Bronze, and I got to Platinum. And I settled on a deck an opponent was playing, and I kind of tuned it to how I wanted it to be. And it looked like Sephiroth kind of fit into the deck to an extent, and I kind of wanted to look at, perhaps like how does it fit? Does it require a spot or two? What exactly? How would this card function in this particular Aristocrats deck? So, what we're on is Raise the Past, and if you haven't kind of experienced this card yet, it's quite a card, and it is a devastating, I'd say, in a best of one format. It fits and synergizes with multiple cards at once, and it kind of gives you an edge. If you can cast this and resolve it, you should probably win most of the time, unless you misclick somehow. Maybe you miss some blocks along the way, and that's happened to me a couple times. I mean, it is a very fast format, standard best of one. If you are just going to get into it, I want to let you know that it's not slow. There's a lot of game actions. It's very fast, and but you can kind of just prepare yourself for that if that's something that you're interested in, because it is rewarding. It is kind of a I got you kind of card. This particular card for 4 mana will return all creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And that is quite a card, because we have ways to put lots of creatures in the graveyard at once. And really, probably your best card here is the Elas, Ilkor, the Sadistic Pilgrim. This card is really fantastic in a best of one format, because you could be losing to aggro, you could be very low on life total, and you could resolve a Raise the Pass and return about 8 or 10 creatures to the battlefield at once. And with an Illis on the battlefield, you just all of a sudden gain all that life back. And it gives you a really fighting chance, because your board presence gets so much stronger. We have lots of flyers in this deck, so the flying can definitely get into the flyer's way. Overall, the deck functions very low to the ground, and definitely obviously rewards you for playing exclusively 2-drops. So what happens if we add Sephiroth? And this is obviously a mythic rarity. Right now it's tracking at $60 per copy. Let's zoom in on this one, because we're going to kind of deduce how exceptional it is for $60 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just Control plus this and try to not mess this up too much further. That's my volume button. Okay, hold on. There we go. Cool. All right, so here is Sephiroth. I can probably even go one more here. There we go. Okay, not quite legal. This is a Final Fantasy card. It's a 3-mana card, 2 generic, 1 black, legendary creature, human avatar soldier. Whenever Sephiroth enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature if you do draw a card. I think that's good enough already. I mean, just, okay, we're going to get a card out of a sack, it just kind of, and or attacks. Ooh, that's kind of nice, that's pretty good for us. So we can get offensive too. And, that's a nice 3-drop for us. That's a lot of card advantage. We definitely want to see things hit the graveyard too in our particular deck. Let's see what else is kind of going on with this homie. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So another kind of redundant aristocrat effect. If this is the 4th time this ability has resolved this turn, transform Seth. Okay, so what are we going to get out of this guy? Let's flip him over. So there's more. Flying 5/5. Okay, cool. Flying 5/5s are good. Supernova. As this creature transforms into Sephiroth, 1-winged angel, you get an emblem. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it retains its kind of redundancy. Plus, it can get through. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the creature. It's just whenever a creature dies. That's really good, because some of these aristocrat effects, like Ellis, it has to be like another creature dying. For instance, oh, he's covered up right now. But the Vengeful Blood Witch is any creature, whenever this creature or another creature, so kind of gets through that. This also gets through that. It's just whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So even if you don't have any aristocrats, it's even better, because even if you don't have any aristocrats on the battlefield, or blood artist effects, or cards that drain opponents for having creatures die, we don't even need those creatures any longer. We just have this emblem. It just kind of sits to the side, and whenever our gnawing vermin dies, or one of our other creature dies, it just kind of does the effect. So what else? Whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. If you do, draw that many cards. Yeah, I think it's kind of like just kind of a nice slot in. Obviously, we can't resurrect this card. It's a 3 mana card, so that's kind of like what kind of holds back, I suppose, the deck to the inclusion to an extent. It's just like, okay, so now I have to meditate ways to find a spot for it. I'd have to say probably the weakest card in the deck is probably the Deathcap Marionettes. They can defend somewhat well. They just die to a lot of things just because of their toughness is kind of low. So yeah, they do the effect of milling, which is a nice effect, I would have to say. Some of the cards I think are just like easy 4-ofs. The Illus Elcor is like an easy 4-of. You need all the bats to like kind of have that interaction with your opponent's hands and make those nice decisions. You need the sack outlet, like the free sacrifice outlet. Another free sacrifice outlet is like this is her from Aether Drift, so you might want to consider that card as your legendary. Basically gets on speed, like it does a speed type of effect, and that might be a good fit. But I like Bartolome because it just kind of gets in and can like kind of swing games really fast if the opponents aren't like leaving blockers open. This thing can just have like a 20 damage swing with your drain pingers, and this thing slapping in. So yeah, we just love Bartolome, and just probably a great commander in general. This guy is kind of puts in an interesting like kind of fix to this deck, because you're kind of wondering like to give up that kind of 2 mana value, and graveyard potential for card advantage, and that more redundancy of the aristocrat kind of effect. So overall, I am kind of a fan for the card advantage. This thing kind of always, when you're playing against something like a Liliana deck, or a deck that really wants to interact with your stuff and destroy your board, you're kind of top decking. So I wouldn't mind like having like a Sephiroth kind of hit the board, and kind of get rid of a creature to get a card or two. There is a card in Standard now what actually will create pest tokens when you do sacrifice it, and we had that in a while in the first iterations, but it just wasn't really. It was only like quite good with the our homies here. Where is he at? The dogs. The Snarling Gorehound. Yeah, because you're creating more tokens and getting more surveils. That was obviously a key card for that. The spice that I think I've kind of found throughout this process of making this deck is you're definitely your pingers, like having Vengeful Blood Witch down and an Ellis, and returning your things back with a Raise the Past. You can do usually 20 points of damage right there on the spot. Having another one of these that kind of draws cards seems really good. So I think we kind of already talked ourselves through this. Probably a Deathcap Marionette would probably be a first cut, and not be too sad about it. I have grown quite fond of the Fester Leeches, actually. Just to have these kind of come on turn 1. If we don't have, for instance, like a Doggo to start, if we don't, I think it's just like a nice redundancy, because the Fester Leeches can get in and then they can start swinging, and the opponent has like an ultimatum. Do I want to like maybe perhaps trade or lose a creature for them pumping it up for the turn, or just let it go through and let them mill? And so the mills kind of get really strong there. So I am fond of that, like a 3-of. It wasn't like the strongest card in our deck, but it definitely warrants like a 3-of. I would also say the fairies are just kind of keep your gasoline going. But those were also kind of dictated because I didn't have a lot of card advantage. So I also kind of talked myself, I think perhaps that is maybe the cut, it seems. Just like a one of, so we can get another one of the Sephiroths. Now, the Greedy Freebooter has a role in this deck, and I do think it kind of warrants a 4 of. It's came in clutch, and basically it's to help us get to that balance of not including too many lands in our deck, because as we're milling, if we're playing like 22 lands in our deck, as we're milling, we'll predominantly mill more lands instead of creatures. So this kind of acts as like, well, if it's going to die, I'm going to create that treasure, which kind of acts like a land or a land for a single use. And then I still get to put creatures in the graveyard. I can increase my creature count. So I thought that was a pretty clever way to kind of balance this deck with lands, so that you're kind of being efficient about putting more creatures in the grave. And you see we have 37 creatures here, so it's kind of just like a nice balance of this. And now I get to run Sephiroth. Okay, so this is, I think, the deck moving forward. We do have a Surveil land in here, just a single copy. It felt really nice, actually, just to have a single copy. I didn't want to run too many tap lands in this deck. And in fact, I'm still not there in wild cards. This is just like an ideal version. I think I'm still running like 4, just tap common lands, life lands, I think. And those can probably even be just like a different version altogether, really. There's like a land that, a tapped Orzhov land, that if someone has like 13 life or less, it just comes in untapped. We probably would like that because, in standard, people are dying all the time. The life total is going down really low. So you could maybe consider that as a dual land if you don't have all these. I basically have 4 pain lands in my deck. I'm running in Platinum right now. I have 1 Concealed Courtyard and 1 Bleachbound Verge and 1 Backstreet. So I definitely need to if I really want to take this into Mythic and beyond, I think it would be the Bleachbone Verges would kind of be pumped up there. Along with the Concealed Courtyards, just so your mana is really good. So this deck should look pretty good. It says I'm at 61 cards, which is kind of interesting considering I just thought I just took out... Oh, it didn't register the fairy. Okay. All right, and this would kind of be the deck here that, Final Fantasy comes along that I would probably run. And we could definitely try out Sephiroth, in the digital format. So we can kind of goldfish this and kind of maybe, kind of see perhaps a Sephiroth hand and see how that might look. It is kind of common to sometimes, that was probably a keepable hand on my first instance. I've actually become kind of more fond of these, holds with a Fairy Dream Thief on 1 land too. They're just kind of interesting to try out. Sometimes if you had more mill enablers, I might consider that. That one's not too hot, is it? So we're kind of just looking for Sephiroth in the opener here, just to kind of see what's going on. All right, let's play test this one and see how it kind of looks. Kind of looks interesting. Our mana's pretty good. And nothing really to sacrifice here yet. So let's kind of see here. There's that. We will draw. Hold on, I know this is standard, so let's see. Let's just start our opener again. I think we had this. This was on top. Sorry, guys. I just want to... I kind of hit the draw button sometimes. So this is our opener here. We're fine. This is fine. We're on the play or whatever. Okay. Now we go to our draw. And it looks like we're just going to get into their hand here. Blah, blah, blah. Surveil a card. Another Sephiroth. I don't think we need 2 of those. So we can kind of just roll those in. And draw here. So overall, the Seph is kind of showing kind of some redundancy here. There's nothing really good to sacrifice, yet. 9 Vermins are going to be pretty good to sacrifice. We definitely don't want to sacrifice our bats under any circumstance. That doesn't really make any sense to us. In terms of the witches, I don't think that's coming up too much because there's only 2 copies, so not completely concerned about that yet. I don't know if it's time for Sephiroth to come down yet, but it is the most mana efficient, and we're not terribly sad about things going to the graveyard in this deck. So if we do, for instance, go ahead and this resolves, we would go ahead and put this in the grave and draw a card. It's a plains. And then we can go ahead and draw once more, and we're landlocked. And this is kind of an interesting thing here going on. We have kind of our aristocratic thing here, or our drain. If we go in and swing in and we kind of sacrifice the Blood Witch, we're just... Okay, now we're getting into some juice. I do love this card. No, that would all stack, right? This is whenever another creature dies. So that would be like a lot of pings in general, right? Because we have this death trigger here. We'd be drawing, and then that would be 3 death triggers. That's pretty good. And a card. Yeah, this card is really solid. That looked pretty decent, actually, considering we didn't have too many things to sacrifice. There might be some, room for tuning now. I don't know, there is that, for instance, that one card. I think it's something infestated. I mean, if we get some card advantage on a 3-drop, I mean, it looked pretty good. I might be able to hit lands a little bit better. I think we'd probably leave the deck as is, just like this. Let's try to get another Sephiroth hand and see kind of what it looks like. Okay, we'll play test this one too. Alright, this one looks a little bit more interesting, actually. I don't know, I just sometimes have an inclination to draw for whatever reason. Imagine that we're just on the play. Now we can draw. It's the bat here, usually, guys. It's just usually the bat. And then we're kind of slowing this down. So I think that's where the freebooter comes into play slightly. Ellis is just a fantastic card. The card quality on this card is amazing, guys. If you're not too familiar with this one or haven't played with it very much, it's basically got all the best modes that you can ask for on Orzhov card for 2 mana. You get Death Touch on this thing. You get a life gain boost, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life, which is insane. And then whenever another creature control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. It's what is this card? It's it's got all the goodies on it at once, So it looks like we're kind of getting into it. Probably swinging here. This is kind of stupid good. That's an additional wow, redundancy and card draw for that pinging. So obviously, yeah, we're going to be swinging in, doing damage with the thief, and then doing more damage with the thief that we sacrifice and draw with it, and kind of getting that chance for that more card advantage. And it looks like this kind of deck is kind of swinging in our favor now in this particular instance. So that's just a nice kind of curvature there. It's just, not bad at all, especially the bat. Got the Gorehound here action going. Now we can start surveilling cards into our graveyard. We already have this fairy in the graveyard. And now we're just starting to fuel this graveyard up, which is really nice. We can swing in, destroy this in exchange for a card and a treasure. And now we're kind of just, firing off a little bit. We can get the surveils going with Bartolome. That looks pretty decent. Just to kind of keep the action going. And Bartolome is interesting because you can actually, flip this sucker, which is really interesting. It has to be a 4th time. How interesting. Yeah, we could probably actually resolve it. Honestly, to get to Raise the Past, that's kind of the name of the game. And if you want to put more Ellis's in there, so for instance, if we just... I think on this particular turn we even had a treasure, so you could probably do that. You could probably just, if we did cast Bartolome this turn, you get another Surveil here. We can put Sephiroth in the grave. You can basically sacrifice your board here at this point. This would go right to the grave. That's more redundancy for the Blood Artist type effects here. Now you're swinging in. You can, sacrifice a dog, draw. You could put this on the battlefield. You can sacrifice the Bartolome, could trigger the Sephiroth. And then you'd have this this Blood Artist effect. You're probably already mostly dealing lethal. And you have a good board in Rel. You don't have to You know, perhaps you can just wait on it too. You know, we're just hitting the surveil here. We want the raise the pass. You know, we want to get to that. I mean, where is it? It's close. It's close by. So we're getting there, and it would happen sooner than later. And then, you know, you're in a very good board state, and this card is the juice. Yeah, I think it is the juice. Wow, Sephiroth. So we'll leave this in here. We'll just call this like Final Fantasy Sephiroth or something. Let me just kind of get in here real quick. And I'm just leaving this comment. Basically, like if you want to play this in standard now, then you just would have to put in the fairy. 1, 2. Yeah, let me do this faster. Perfect. Well, that was kind of fun. Yeah, Sephiroth looks really, really good, guys. Oh, this is a great keep. I mean, we were looking for Sephiroth, but if you wanted to see this kind of deck in action, it is so nasty. It is something like to really kind of, it gets really busy, guys. Like, yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we're drawing for the next turn. I mean, the amount of mills that you get into this is just incredible. So, yeah, these are just milling first. Yeah, this is like how you build a graveyard here. And we still get to do more. Because we get to surveil now. And, yeah, we can put that in the graveyard, too. And now we get to play the Fester Leech, and we get to surveil again. Guys, that is like the Magna Carta right there. That's 4 creature mills at once. We did not break at all there. That was incredible. And now we're just like cruising, you know, that's great. It's just so good. Yeah, we're just putting these all into the graveyard. You know, we're looking for our 4th land here. We got our Fester Leech online. That's like another, you know, we can pump that up and usually get through. And there's a Sephiroth. Sephiroth just has to go to the graveyard. That's just a milling effect there. Can't do anything about it. One of the things we could have done is perhaps wait to attack with a Fester Leech. Be careful with a Fester Leech if you want to surveil or manipulate your deck in any way with your dogs, because a Fester Leech will have a force to mill. It will make you mill, so just be careful with that. So it would probably look better attacking in than going into the Witch, probably in most circumstances. And then you get to surveil, like, because we want to top a land, you know, we want to kind of get into a land so that we can kind of get into this raise the past action, you know. So that's something to be aware of. That's something like you want to have your advantage of for. Now, there's a little bit of game actions here, but it's not like so overly complicated like you might see in some of the games. I think maybe it would be cool just to dive into a game and kind of show you the deck as it is right now, because that would just be fun, and I'm ready to go. So let's just kind of jump in and kind of show you how it works. And hopefully we don't get 2 pounced on here. Pretty much just losing to like mono red Corey Steelcutter decks. It's pretty much been like kind of the predominant sentiment so far. But we love this. We just love to like really maximize the mills. And Bartolome is good interaction, you know, if they do kind of play tokens, We can always just bust out a Bartolome and all of a sudden we have a dead weight that kind of just gets in there real quick. Otherwise, we're just going to get our Ellis down here, so let's just slap in. And Ellis kind of gets that little bit of life gain, a little bit of like kind of, you know, if you kill my stuff, I'm going to, you know, have a benefit for my own, so that's kind of nice. And now we have Bartolome here, a little pain, just a little pain here, nothing too bad. And I'm okay with things getting countered, like we're very okay with that because they just go to the graves. We'll get them back next time, you know, we'll get them back. Raise the pass would be kind of cool here, just to like kind of get into one. We could get into one. But we'll be sending those lands away a million times out of 9. What's good here? Well, that's very good for me in a way. I mean, I can kill that. So, let's go here. Take a little damage. Probably didn't have to do that, but let's put this in the graveyard. Now, we might actually have to sacrifice our fairy to draw with it. So, that would be kind of interesting. We don't have to do it yet. Let's wait for, like, you know, try to get some damage in. They're slow, guys. They are super slow. And their mana doesn't look too hot, I'll be honest. Okay, so there's a raise the pass. So, how to illustrate this best? We're definitely going to want to just drop our land here. We're just going to slap in. We'll sacrifice like everything that we can. We definitely do that first for the life ping. Then we just sacrifice this. And now we just raise the past here. And it's fine. We'll keep the 5/4. Just gain a bunch of life. Got this free sacrifice outlet here, which is nice, and then we just kind of just roll it through, and they're just dead. Cool. Easy peasy, guys. Easy deck. Yeah, that was kind of a slower one, but I think we had the 9 Vermin, and that redundancy with Bartolome. That's why it's a 4 of 2. It's just the LS in the Bartolome. If you want to like kind of start this shell, I would start with just 4 of that to kind of like get kind of, you know, kind of get initiated to this, you know, kind of style of play. I think, yeah, you just want to start here, just like this, and perhaps like this. And just have the idea of the deck here. And then maybe put your own stamp on it, you know, to kind of see what you want to do. But you can see like our mana base is kind of scuffed right now. I mean, the Scoured Barons, like I said, they're good for like, they're pretty good for that life. It can come in handy, but it's probably like this one is probably even better if you're doing like a budgety thing. And I will show you the Neglected Manor because it can come in untapped. Unless a player has 13 life or less. It's not the worst, is it? And I've had it come and play and tapped in previous iterations, so I think that's the one to do. In addition, there is a token pest that might be really busted with Sephiroth, actually. Let's see, token. This one, the Infestation Sage. When this creature dies, create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token with flying. So that could definitely kind of get your juices going. In terms of like, what would you cut? Because basically our cuts were a fairy because we added some card advantage, and a Death Cap Marionette. You know, and I mean, since you're adding cards like a greedy freebooter, like is, you know, it's coming clutch, but maybe if we have something that's drawing cards, that can act like a treasure because we're getting into more cards and perhaps more lands, right? So that's kind of like what perhaps you might want to meditate on there. If you do want to run like maybe 1 or 2 Infestation Sages as like a tech card for Sephiroth. because that things are hitting the board and coming back, and it might just be in your best interest to do something such as that as well. But it could maybe just be like down a freebooter, add an infestation sage, and don't be sad about that either. So I'll probably put that in my list right now. I'm not adding it now because as a deck is, it functions just nicely, just like this. So but I would probably consider I'll put it in the list because it is like the Final Fantasy list. I'll probably put in Infestation Sage over a freebooter, at least one of them. But we're still only playing 20 lands. You still want to kind of maximize this creature / dies and becomes a treasure thing, and kind of also gets a scry. Synergizes really well with everything. So thought you would like this deck. I think it was kind of an interesting look at this, and looking at future cards, I think I'll kind of farm content like this. But I hope you all have a great day. Have a great one. Bye bye.